Hey everybody, it's your boy, and well, I guess I've decided to make this video unscripted because I just want to get my thoughts out there as quickly as possible about the current situation in America right now, because it's really beginning to piss me off. I've been angry, or at least simmering for the past couple of days now about the things that I've been seeing, and I just need to tell you guys what I think, because it's really been annoying me. So I guess first off, right out the bat, that the death of George Floyd was completely and utterly indefensible. You cannot defend the actions of the police, and all that was due to a $20 bill that was counterfeit. Whether or not he knew that was counterfeit, does it really matter? It doesn't mean that he deserves to die. Now, I do know that he resisted arrest, and considering his past, considering his character, he really ought to have known better, because if you've seen any of his videos that have come out since he died, he wasn't that stupid. He really should have known better than to resist arrest. But the thing is, even though that was a slight part to play in his death, it was really the actions of the police that ultimately killed him. Speaking of the riots, I just feel so sorry for his family because this is the end result now. And to be honest, I thought there wasn't going to be any riots. I thought there was going to be riots for the last case, the Ahmaud Arbery case. Although that was not necessarily coppers doing it, it was a former policeman and his son. I thought there was going to be race riots for that because that was a very contentious issue, but everybody's forgotten about that. That's just been swept under the rug as this coronavirus. I thought it was that one that was going to cause the issues because that was one that was very obviously being incited by the media and by race baiters and the left into making black people edgy and psyched up for a riot, basically. Because if those men, because they're still being charged and they've not yet gone to court, as far as I know, if those men were declared innocent, you can guarantee there would have been riots because people would refuse to believe that they defended themselves and that it was an acceptable use of force. To my surprise, this one was where the riots started because I was always fairly confident that the guy was going to be charged. It was too obvious. And now there has been cases where a very obvious case of police brutality has resulted in them walking away, but this one was so obviously brutal and horrible that he could not be charged. And yet they still rioted. Now, yeah, there was peaceful protests, but literally as soon as I got onto Twitter to have a look at what was going on, riots almost instantly, burning down people's businesses, burning down houses, burning down other historic landmarks. There was, I think, a building in either Minneapolis or Atlanta, whichever one it was burned down, and that was an historic building that was visited by tourists from all over the world. Yeah, there were shops owned by corporations and takeaways like McDonald's and Wendy's, Costco, etc. But there's a pattern here. These are jobs that are worked primarily by working class people on minimum wage, and the businesses and homes were owned by either private persons, so these are people who are self-employed, who at the moment have been already struggling under coronavirus, and yet now they've had to see their whole livelihoods, their life's work, burned down and ruined and gone before their very eyes. And not only that, people's homes that they'd worked hard to pay the rent for, to get in the first place. This is affordable homes, apparently, in Minneapolis, maybe in other places. This is affordable working class homes. They're projects, essentially. Burned down. You've got no home. But apparently, according to Amazing Atheist and other leftists, they've got insurance. It's alright. They'll be fine. Yes, they also set fire to the police station. But what did the other Minneapolis cops have to do with it? As far as we know, Minneapolis has actually a very good record when it comes to race relations. And the police aren't really known for being that seedy and that corrupt. That's what other Americans have been telling me, and in fact Minneapolis has prided itself in being one of the more progressive states. They had laws in regards to racial equality since the 1940s, way before any other state as far as I am aware of, before it was enacted on a federal level in 1964. And not only that, this is the same city, Minneapolis, that is proud to be the city that Prince is from. Prince! So I don't understand why the rioters felt the need to treat the place like it was Birmingham, Alabama in the 1950s, or Detroit in 1968. Minneapolis just doesn't have the same history. Why are they just doing it peacefully and just expressing their ire at the people actually responsible for it, the state, the police? No, instead, They attacked either their own communities or other people's communities. They ended up going into the Twin Cities, St. Paul, rioting there and destroying things and destroying their own communities' businesses and houses. How is that productive? And not only that, we've seen the left take advantage of this. We've seen the mainstream media refuse to call the riots what they are, despite the fact that several journalists have been attacked by protesters and the police as well. The police should not be attacking journalists, even though it's kind of Schadenfreude-like in a way for some people and a little bit of karma. And not only that, CNN's own headquarters are attacked. No, they're still defending them, they're still calling it protesters, they're still saying it's largely peaceful. I mean, it depends where you are in America, but in most places, it's completely and utterly lawless. It's just chaos. There's wanton destruction, people have died, a black officer died, so not only are they protesting allegedly about a black man being killed, well, they've only gone and killed another black man, but I guess because he's a cop, or at least a federal agent, I don't know, I don't think he was actually a cop. That's okay. ACAB, isn't it? All cops are bastards. So I guess he's not really black anymore, to paraphrase Joe Biden, eh? Antifa are there, fanning the flames on the streets, trying to get people to go out there and fight for the revolution. They're bringing bricks and weapons, arming the rioters. Don't get me wrong, not all the rioters are political. A lot of them are just opportunists. They're there for the free stuff that they're going to get eventually because, well, the police are currently in a lot of places not doing anything. They're just being told to stand down by their Democratic mayors and told to do nothing. But there is a left-wing element to this. For the far left are there, Antifa are there, we've seen them, they're in their garb, they're doing what they usually do, and not only that, they seem much more organised than they have been in the recent past, and they are managing to actually direct some of these people into doing things that they want them to do. Sometimes it's just provoking a fight and then running away, other times they are leading them from the front. And no wonder Trump has decided to label them as a terrorist group, because that's exactly what they are. They're terrorising people. They're not just terrorising white neighbourhoods, they're terrorising the black neighbourhoods. Because, let's be honest, the mostly white Antifa don't give a crap about black people. They really don't care. Neither do the Democrats. The Democrats are the party that tried to oppress them in the South for how many centuries? They're a means to an end. They're a tool for Antifa to get their communist utopia. A lot of those black people, especially those who own their own businesses and homes, would be sent to the gulag if Antifa ever won. And a lot of the black people that are rioting, and a lot of the black people rioting with them, well, Marx wouldn't really like them, and I don't think Antifa likes them anyway. I believe the term is lumpenproletariat is the term. These are the people that Marx thought as unorganised, not interested in political activity, basically just the underclass. They're not even peasants, they're worse than peasants. But somehow Antifa has actually managed to find a use for them, directing their energies where they need them to be, terrorising normal Americans. Because this is just one big accelerationist game for them, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to bring about the revolution as quickly as possible, a civil war maybe, you could say. And they're being defended, the rioters, the looters, Antifa, by the mainstream media, by celebrities who are literally paying their bail fees. They're not just bailing out Antifa, they are also bailing out the looters, which means that Hollywood is even more out of touch with reality than they ever have been before. When Taylor Swift is complaining about white supremacy that Trump has allegedly been enabling and spreading, which is a load of bollocks, you know that she's out of her mind and completely out of touch. And Joe Biden himself is out there with people taking pictures. He's making himself out to be on the rioters' side. How the hell does he expect that's going to win him votes? And not only that, you see people like Shoehead, the aforementioned and amazing atheist, I even saw Armored Skeptic, and a few other blue checkmark types, just defending this also. And these people should know better, they really should. But hey, this is what I expect from leftists at this point. A lot of them have been so radicalised, these people have become so biased that they can't admit fault when they see it from their own side. They can't admit that, yeah, enough is enough. There are certain things that simply cannot stand in a civilised society. But there is some silver linings. There's people who are out there trying to clean up day after the riots. There are people who have been making Indiegogo and Kickstarters for the business people, particularly one guy who was a former fireman who had his business burned down and his safe stolen and everything. People have been trying to get together to help themselves. People have been defending each other. I have seen a guy with a sword fighting off people, although he later almost got killed, but somehow, miraculously, he was not brain damaged. He was on Twitter the next day saying, yep, that was me. He was defending his favourite bar. There was A man who saw another guy who was like a MAGA supporter with an American flag, he went in to help him and got beat up as well. We've seen people who are black also help out other people, especially one woman that I saw on Twitter. She was actually flagging down a antifa car or just some leftists and literally handed them their brick back saying, "What do you think you're doing giving black men or black people bricks? Who do you think you are?" And there's been some good images of police being peaceful, though not all of them. Obviously, a lot of them have been brutal, firing rubber bullets at people and paint at people in their homes. I've seen some moving pictures of people just getting together in solidarity, some good relations, good humour. I saw a really moving one of a policeman consoling a young black boy. Well, I guess he was really a young man who was crying, almost being like a father figure almost, which is really what a lot of these rioters need. They wouldn't be doing this if they had fathers, most of them. Some people are assigning blame to Trump for this, which doesn't make sense. Most of it's Democrats, but some other people on the right are as well, and I just don't understand what he can do. He's the president. He's part of the federal part of the system, not the state system. There's only so much he can do to try and convince the Democratic mayors who are actually sympathetic to Antifa and the rioters to do anything. What can he do? He actually can't do much. He could send in the army, obviously, but I think that's a last resort, and I think really his silence through most of this, although he has made several comments, especially in regards about looting and shooting starting. Personally, what I think he's trying to do is just say nothing as the Democrats make errors. Why say anything that could distract them from making their own mistakes? Because I've seen something very interesting about this that a lot of people should also take as a silver lining. Remember, they're anti-gun, right? They're pro-gun control. Well, this whole situation has proven that we can't rely on the police, we can't rely on the state to look after us, to protect us when things go wrong and we require law enforcement. It turns out that actually, maybe being armed, having an armed populace is important and actually can help in keeping an ordered society where people obey the rule of law. How many videos have you seen of people who are not armed getting beat up, their houses destroyed, their businesses destroyed? But how many times have you seen videos where people have guns defending themselves? You've seen a few of them. There was one where a man saw his business being destroyed, he parked his car, he brought out his gun, fired a warning shot into the air, and next thing you know, the looters are running away. This has probably single-handedly won the gun control debate for the right. They have been proven correct that less gun control is needed. In fact, more guns are needed, because if Corona hasn't shown people that the police aren't going to do anything, because a lot of them were basically locking themselves down and not willing to handle calls in regards to all sorts of petty crimes like property damage and robbery. This will show normal Americans, even some left-wingers perhaps, some Democrats, that yeah, guns, they can be mighty useful in defending yourself and your family and your property. And I think the Democrats won't have an answer to this when it's used in future debates. Now, is this the second civil war? Is this a race war? No, because we've seen white people and black people, maybe other races, get involved in the riot. Yes, it's mainly black people. We can't forget that that is the case. It is mainly the black underclass, and also most of the white rioters are actually not the underclass like it was in Britain during the 2011 riots, but middle class to upper class Antifa members. But it's only a couple thousand people, maybe tens of thousands at most. Is it even that? But that's really all you need in order to create the maximum amount of chaos in the city, especially when the police are not interested in doing anything to protect the property and the people that you're attacking. The upper class areas have very much largely been ignored by these looters. The middle class areas, by and large, have been ignored, although some suburbs were attacked. And most of the attacks have been in working class areas. And they weren't emboldening themselves to these people. These people don't want riots. These people want justice, but they don't want riots. I know it's taken me almost to the end to say this, but George Floyd has largely been forgotten by these rioters, mainly because it was never really about him for them, but particularly the left, it was never about him. It wasn't about justice for George Floyd, it was about causing chaos and destruction. That's what it was. It was about getting your 4K TVs, and your basmati rice, and your cheesecakes. That's what it was about. Everybody knows that for most of these people. When the cop was charged, they still did it, because it wasn't about that. But anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter. I just start repeating myself. I probably have done anyway. But this was an unscripted stream of consciousness thing, really. So excuse me for that, guys. But I just thought I'd get my thoughts out there. So anyway, I'll see you later.